வந்துட்டு இருக்குது. அது ரெட் அனுப்புறது தானே சார் ரெக்கார்ட்ஸ்? இப்போ ஸ்டார்ட் ஆயிடுச்சு. ஆயிடுச்சு சார்.
Hey Lawrence, good morning.
I think all of you can see my screen now.
Play mode போயிடு.
Yeah.
ஸ்கிரீன் எப்படி டாக்டர் ராஜேந்திரன்?
அப்படிதான் மேடம் இருக்கும். ஃபுல் ஸ்லைடு இருக்கும். சைடுல எல்லா வீடியோல தெரிவாங்க எல்லாரும். வீடியோ ஆன் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கறவங்களுக்கு வீடியோ இருக்கும், இல்லாட்டி வீடியோ இருக்காது.
But I think you can see your PPT screen தெரியுது தானே மேம்? Presentation screen தெரியுது தானே?
yes தெரியுதுமா.
Okay. சந்தியா
உங்க பிரசன்டேஷன் ஸ்கிரீன் தெரியாம உங்க வீடியோ மட்டும் ஃபுல்லா இருந்தா அதை 2 தடவை டேப் பண்ணீங்கன்னா அது உங்க வீடியோ சின்னதாயிடும். பிரசன்டேஷன்
இல்ல லீனா தான் வராங்க இப்போ.
நீங்க லீனாவை டச் பண்ணிருக்கீங்க.
சரி ஓகே.
மெயின்டைன் சோஷியல் டிஸ்டன்ஸ்.
ஒரு நிமிஷம். இந்த ஸ்கிரீன் பிரசன்ட் ஸ்கிரீன் அப்படினு போட்டா வருமா?
இல்ல மேம், அது நான் மட்டும் தான் கொடுத்திருக்கேன் மேம் பிரசன்ட் ஸ்கிரீன்.
அத ஸ்விட்ச் கேமரா.
நீங்க பிரசன்ட் ஸ்கிரீன் கொடுக்க கூடாது மேடம். நீங்க உங்க போட்டோ இருக்கு இல்லையா, அத வந்து 2 தடவை டச் பண்ணுங்க. இல்ல
ஓகே
மேடம்.
ராணி கிளாஸ்
இல்ல உங்க கேமராவை ஆஃப் பண்ணுங்க மேடம், ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்கா இது வந்துரும். யார் பா? லட்சுமி கிருஷ்ணா.
லெட்ஸ் கம்.
வந்துச்சா மேடம்?
சார் நம்ம வீடியோவும் பண்ணி மியூட்லயும் போட்டுக்கலாமா?
எஸ் மேம், எல்லாரும் மியூட்ல போட்டு.
மியூட் ரொம்ப அவசியம் மேடம். நான் சும்மா உங்க கூட பேசணுன்றதுக்காக நான் ஆன்ல வச்சிட்டு இருக்கேன். நானும் மினிட்டாவை மட்டும் ஆன்ல.
ஓகே சார்.
மினிட் ஆரம்பிங்க. மினிட்டா?
யா ஓகே.
அதுக்கு முன்னாடி எல்லாருக்கும் ஸ்கிரீன் தெரியுதா? ஸ்கிரீன் தெரியாதவங்க தெரியலன்னு சொல்லுங்க. ஒரு 1 minute டைம் தரோம், அப்புறம் மினிட்டா ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணுவோம்.
தெரியுது.
சூப்பர்.
Okay. So this article is like an update on the role of IHC in the evaluation of gastrointestinal. Sir,
good morning சொல்லு.
Okay,
welcome சொல்லு.
Okay sir. Okay sir.
Zoom meeting இது first Google Meet.
Amma sir. So good morning all. So we'll start with this journal club today. So this journal club is an update. This journal is an update on the role of IHC in the evaluation of GI tract disorders. So this is written by Dr. Scott Robertson and Dr. Deepa Patil. They are from the Department of Pathology, Cleveland Clinic, Ohio. And this journal has been article is published in Anatomic Pathology in November 2018. So the main objective of this, so as in any organ system, IHC is an ancillary tool to diagnose both neoplastic and non-neoplastic conditions. I think like someone is not in mute. I'm able to hear like full background noise.
நீ மியூட் பண்றமா? அந்த பார்ட்டிசிபென்ட்ட கிளிக் பண்ணி அப்படியே ஸ்க்ரோல் பண்ணி யாரெல்லாம் மியூட் இல்லையா எல்லாரையும் நீனே மியூட் பண்ணி விட்டுரு.
Okay sir.
என்ன மட்டும் மியூட் பண்ணாத.
And sir, நான் present பண்ணும்போது எனக்கு அங்க வந்து எனக்கு admit screen காட்ட மாட்டேங்குது actually.
வருமா? யாரா சேர்றப்ப வருவா.
Okay.
நான் பாத்துக்கிறேன், நீங்க அதை ஆரம்பிங்க.
Okay sir. Okay. I think now you can see my screen now. So the main objective of this, so as in like any IHC is an ancillary tool for both neoplastic and non-neoplastic conditions. So here this article covers the role of IHC in GI tract for both non-neoplastic as well as neoplastic conditions. So the main role of IHC is to evaluate gastritis, and the major portion of this article is on the role of IHC in malignant neoplasms of GI tract. So why IHC is important to evaluate gastritis? So we know based on the updated Sydney classification, gastritis is classified based on the etiology as H. pylori autoimmune atrophic gastritis. So this H. pylori associated gastritis, both of these can lead to atrophy and can be
I think
associated.
somebody is not in mute.
Yeah.
Once again, Benita, please ask
Yes,
everybody
ma'am.
to put in mute. There is
Yeah.
some this thing.
Okay. Sir, Zoom மாதிரி actually எல்லாரையும் ஒரே டைம்ல unmute பண்ண முடியல. Mute பண்ண முடியல.
Okay, continue, Benita.
Yeah, I have muted everyone, ma'am. You can see my screen now, right? So first we'll see the role of IHC in evaluating gastritis. So as I told, based on updated Sydney classification, gastritis can be classified as H. pylori associated and atrophic gastritis. So both these can lead to atrophy and then eventually into adenocarcinoma. And in addition, H. pylori is strongly associated with extranodal marginal zone lymphoma, and autoimmune metaplastic atrophic gastritis is associated with neuroendocrine tumor. So what is the role of IHC here is IHC can help determine the etiology, and it can also help us assess the prognosis, because H. pylori is associated with mal tumor and atrophic gastritis is associated with neuroendocrine tumor. So now, why IHC is needed for detection of H. pylori? So we know the best stain for H. pylori is the routine H&E stain, and we have some special stains like GMSA and Warthin-Starry stain. But when H&E is best, why do we need IHC? So sometimes the organisms will not be visible, or they'll be less in number in some conditions like intestinal metaplasia, when there is erosions or ulcers, when there is prolonged PPI usage, or if there's a recent antibiotic therapy, or in Helicobacter helmani infection, the bacilli cannot be visible on the routine H&E stain. So that's when we need IHC to detect H. pylori. And then now, so when exactly IHC is indicated? In chronic gastritis. So not in all cases we need to do IHC. So there are certain indications to do IHC to detect H. pylori. So we know H. pylori is usually associated with chronic gastritis, and if there is marked activity like neutrophilic infiltrate. So IHC is indicated where there are no organisms on H&E, but there is active gastritis, or we see marked chronic inactive gastritis. So these are the two conditions when IHC is indicated. And it's not indicated when there is only mild chronic inactive gastritis, or if it's only a histologically normal mucosa. So only if it's active or if there is marked chronic inactive gastritis, we'll have to go ahead with IHC when H. pylori is not seen on the routine H&E stain. Now moving on to the atrophic gastritis. So atrophic gastritis, so we'll just see a quick background on the pathogenesis of atrophic gastritis. So we know this is a body of stomach with the parietal cells and the enterochromaffin-like cells, and in the antrum we have the G cells. So normally acid is produced by the H+ is produced by the parietal cells, and this production is stimulated by gastrin, which is a product of G cells, and this G cell is exclusively located in the antrum of stomach. And this action of gastrin on parietal cell is mediated by enterochromaffin-like cells or through histamine. So this enterochromaffin-like cell is a type of neuroendocrine cell. So what happens in atrophic gastritis? So there is antibody-mediated destruction of the parietal cells. So there will be hypochlorhydria, which in turn will stimulate the G cells, resulting in G cell hyperplasia in the antrum. And then again, this intermediate enterochromaffin-like cell is also shows proliferation. So this eventually will develop into neuroendocrine tumor. So this is the pathogenesis of atrophic gastritis to neuroendocrine tumor. So on histopathology, atrophic gastritis is restricted to the corpus, since we see the parietal cells in the antrum, and then, in the body of stomach, and it can also have marked chronic inactive gastritis, and this gastritis is restricted to the lower part of mucosa, whereas H. pylori, it's more in the superficial part of mucosa, and we see there is antibodies against the parietal cells, so the oxyntic glands show atrophy, and they are replaced by pyloric or intestinal type of metaplastic glands. So this is a picture of a gastric biopsy where we can see chronic gastritis, and there is some atrophy with This is pyloric metaplasia, and this is intestinal metaplasia. So now why do we need IHC in this? Because this could represent either an atrophic body or fundus, or it could even be a normal antrum. So because normal antrum also shows pyloric glands, and there will not be any oxyntic glands. So this could be either be a normal antrum or an atrophic corpus. So this is where IHC plays a role to confirm the biopsy site and to highlight enterochromaffin cell-like hyperplasia. So how does it help? This is a gastrin IHC. We can see it is negative. So if gastrin is negative, we know gastrin is exclusively seen in the antrum. So if gastrin is negative, that means this confirms that the biopsy is from body or fundus and it is atrophic. And the next one, to highlight the enterochromaffin cells, we use synoptophysin and chromogranin. So they can be either linear positivity, where the cells are arranged in a linear pattern, or it could be micronodular, where there are clusters of cells taking the stain. So the stain used is synoptophysin and chromogranin. So this will highlight the enterochromaffin cell hyperplasia. So there is a classification scheme for this enterochromaffin cell hyperplasia. So the author recommends for practical purposes to know both linear and micronodular. So in linear hyperplasia, there are linear groups of cells inside the glandular basement membrane. In micronodular hyperplasia, there will be clusters of 5 or more cells within the basement membrane, and it will be less than 150 micrometers. Whereas in carcinoid, if it's intramucosal, we can see expansile nodules, which is measuring more than 0.5 mm. And in invasive carcinoid, the tumor can be of any size within the submucosa and is usually visible endoscopically. So the use of IHC in atrophic gastritis is to confirm the biopsy site and to highlight enterochromaffin cell hyperplasia. So now we'll move on to the major portion of the article, which is the role of IHC to evaluate the gastrointestinal malignancies. So it can be used in for various purposes. One is for in the setting of polydifferentiated malignancies, to localize the primary site of metastasis, to help classify primary tumors if it's squamous or adenocarcinoma, and to evaluate some uncommon gastric neoplasms, to localize neuroendocrine tumors of unknown origin, and in the workup of anal neoplasms. So we'll be seeing one by one. So what is the role of Sir?
Anita,
Sir?
in that 3 dots, can you see the change layout?
One second, sir. I'll have to
Go to spotlight so that your slide will be
sir.
seen fully without any video.
One second, sir.
Sorry to disturb, because
That's
in the
okay, sir.
recording it is very important.
Okay, sir.
Can you see the change layout?
One second, sir. Okay.
Right hand side 3 dots.
Yeah, sir, I can see, sir.
And
On the
change it to
spotlights. Okay, sir.
Okay, now it will be full screen,
Okay, sir.
so that recording will be good.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, and sorry.
Yeah, sir. I think you can see the screen now, sir. Yeah. So now first we'll be seeing about IHC in polydifferentiated neoplasms. So just like in any organ system, the author recommends an initial IHC panel to identify the lineage. So for carcinoma, we can go ahead with cytokeratin, Oscar, and CAM 5.2. For lymphoma, CD20, CD3. For melanoma, S-centered and Soxtin. And for sarcoma, Desmin, smooth muscle actin, and MDM2. So we can go ahead with a panel of 4 markers like pan-cytokeratin, CD45 or CD20, CD3 for lymphoma, Soxtin for melanoma, and SMA for sarcoma. So this is the initial panel for polydifferentiated neoplasms. Now the second use of IHC will be to localize the primary site of metastasis. So the most common site of metastasis in GI tract will be adenocarcinoma. So the typical IHC panel will be CK7 and CK20. So this article doesn't discuss the entire phenotype of CK7, CK20 positivity. So in addition to this, if we are thinking of an adenocarcinoma metastasis, in addition to CK7, CK20, we can do some site-specific markers like for breast, GATA3 ER/PR, for the gynecologic tract, PAX8 ER/PR, and for prostate, PSA and NKX 3.1. In case if there is no clear gland formation and if it looks like a polydifferentiated tumor, then we can think of squamous differentiation markers like P63, P40, and cytokeratin 5/6, or neuroendocrine markers like synaptochromo, urothelial markers like GATA3, P63, and renal markers like PAX8. Now, moving on to the third use of IHC is to classify the primary tumors, if it's squamous cell carcinoma or adenocarcinoma. This is very important in organs like esophagus because it changes the treatment. So in esophagus, if it's squamous cell carcinoma, then the treatment will be purely chemoradiotherapy unless it's a persistent disease or a locally recurrent disease. Whereas in adenocarcinoma, there's a neoadjuvant chemotherapy or radiotherapy. So it's very important to differentiate if it's squamous cell carcinoma or adenocarcinoma. So as we know, the marker for squamous cell carcinoma is P63. So it's a very sensitive marker, but it's not very specific because it is also positive in some non-squamous cell tumors like lung adenocarcinomas, certain sarcomas, and lymphomas. So the author also quotes some studies which show that P40 is a more specific marker, but there are not much data to show it is an independent diagnostic marker. So he recommends a panel of 3 markers to differentiate squamous versus adenocarcinoma, like P63, cytokeratin 5/6, and P40, all 3 together. We can do to classify primary tumors. So this is a picture. We can see this is a biopsy from esophagus showing sheets of cells with the abundant cytoplasm. And so they've gone ahead with the squamous cell differentiation markers, like the panel, the same panel. Cytokeratin is positive here, and P63 shows diffuse nuclear positivity, whereas P40 is negative. So this confirms this is a squamous cell carcinoma, though P40 is negative. And then we'll see the role of IHC in workup of adenocarcinoma. So here the author is talking about the SADB2 marker. So we know SADB2 is a marker of osteoblastic differentiation. In addition, it is also expressed in epithelial cells of appendix and colorectal. So it is also positive in colorectal and appendiceal adenocarcinoma. So there are many uses of SADB2 in workup of GI malignancies. So the first one is, in case of a polydifferentiated adenocarcinoma, we can make out if it's a colorectal or appendiceal origin by using SADB2. Then the second one will be to differentiate a coloappendiceal adenocarcinoma metastasis from a primary ovarian adenocarcinoma. So we know there are certain factors favoring metastasis in ovary. We can make out with the morphology if there's a bilateral ovarian involvement, if the size is more than 10 centimeter, if there is surface involvement, if there is stromal as well as vascular invasion, and if there is signet ring cells, that these features will favor more of a metastatic carcinoma in the ovary. And we usually go ahead with the panel of markers like CK7, CK20, and CDX2. And we know ovarian tumors are usually positive for CK7, and it's negative for CK20 and CDX2. Colorectal will be negative for CK7, positive for CK20 and CDX2. But this panel has some limitations because there is significant overlap. CDX2 can be positive in some of the ovarian mucinous adenocarcinomas also. So it's a sensitive marker, but it's not very specific for colorectal tumors. So that's when SADB2 will help. So SADB2 is highly specific for colorectal and appendiceal metastasis. So to differentiate ovarian primary from colorectal metastasis, SADB2 will be more helpful, and since it's a specific marker. But this SADB2 can have limitations. One exception is SADB2 can be expressed in ovarian primary if it is a teratoma with intestinal component. SADB2 can be positive. Now the third use of SADB2 in GI tract will be to localize the origin of Krukenberg tumors. We know the most common primary site for Krukenberg tumor will be stomach, followed by colorectal, appendix, gallbladder, and biliary tree. So now when we do SADB2, colorectal or appendiceal origin will be confirmed, and virtually we can exclude a gastric primary. So the author gives like 3 diagnostic utilities for SADB2. One is in polydifferentiated adenocarcinomas to localize if it's a colorectal or appendiceal origin, and the second one will be to differentiate colorectal metastasis from primary ovary, and the third one to localize the origin of Krukenberg tumor. By confirming it's a colorectal tumor, we can virtually exclude the gastric primary, which is a more common primary site. So this patient had a history of rectal carcinoma. This is a biopsy from periportal lymph node. So we can see this is a metastatic adenocarcinoma, and in this patient CK20 is positive. CDX2, which is a nuclear marker, is negative here. So now to confirm, SADB2 is positive. That indicates this is the primary from colorectal carcinoma. Now, the next role of IHC is to evaluate uncommon gastric neoplasms. So, there are some rare variants of gastric carcinoma. So, one among that is alpha fetoprotein producing carcinoma. This is a very aggressive tumor and this usually presents with liver metastasis. So, morphology wise, this can have both fetal as well as hepatoid differentiation. The hepatoid differentiation will mimic a hepatocellular carcinoma. And again, just like hepatocellular carcinoma, this is positive for markers like AFP, HEPAR1, arginase, and albumin. So now the first step to differentiate an alpha fetoprotein producing carcinoma and HCC carcinoma is by clinical history. So hepatocellular carcinoma will have a dominant mass in the liver and the background liver will have a known liver disease. Whereas an AFP producing carcinoma usually presents as multiple liver masses and the healthy background liver will be healthy and the patient will usually have a concurrent stomach mass. So the marker to confirm will be SAL4, which is a specific marker for AFP producing carcinoma with hepatoid features. So this can help differentiate hepatocellular from AFP producing carcinoma along with the clinical history. So this picture shows tumor cells arranged. This is a biopsy showing tumor cells arranged in tubular pattern, and we can see that cells are columnar with clear cytoplasm. And the picture C shows tumor cells arranged in trabecular pattern with abundant cytoplasm. So both these components were positive for SAL4, showing this is an AFP producing carcinoma. Now another rare neoplasm is switch sucrose.
Vinita, we are not hearing you. Hello.
The screen just stopped.
Vinita, அந்த எண்ட்ல ஏதாவது
Hello.
வெயிட் பண்ணலாம், அவங்க வருவாங்க.
Vinita?
வினிதாக்கு ஃபோன் பண்ணு.
I'm calling her. She's not picking up actually.
அது போயிடல, இன்டர்நெட் போயிடுச்சு. எப்படி மேடம், ஏதாவது சுவிட்ச் ஆஃப் பண்ணீங்களா? Not picking up.
She didn't pick up, sir.
Keep trying. WhatsApp message.
Yes, sir.
Sir, எதுல இருந்து கண்டினியூ பண்ணும் சார்? I don't know.
போன ஸ்லைடு அந்த இது போட்டீங்கல்ல, SAL4 பாசிட்டிவ் ஹெப்படோசைட். ஹெப்படாய்டு இதல வந்து
அந்த ஸ்மார்க் 1 அதுல இருந்து கண்டினியூ பண்ணனும்னு நினைக்கிறேன். ஸ்மார்க் B1.
Okay. Can you see my screen now? No, I don't think.
No. Screen is not seen. You are seen.
Yeah.
Nothing is seen.
1 second.
Session now போயிடுமா?
Yeah.
Super.
So,
வந்துருச்சுமா வந்துருச்சு வெரி குட்
okay. So this is where it stopped, ma'am.
எஸ் எஸ்
It's
இல்ல
stopped
இல்லம்மா
in
ஐ திங்க்
Smart
அடுத்து
B1.
நான் ஸ்மார்ட் B1 ஸ்மார்ட்
Okay.
இங்கேதாம்மா
Smart B1.
இங்கேதான்
Okay.
so let's put it in mute now again. Yeah.
Okay.
All of you mute, please.
Okay. So we saw alpha fetal producing carcinoma, which is a rare gastric neoplasm, and the next rare neoplasm of the GI tract will be switch sucrose non-fermenting complex deficient carcinomas. So this complex is a group of proteins which is involved in chromatin remodeling. So we have So we know there are like smart B1 or INI1 is one of those proteins. So we have INI1 deficient tumors like malignant rhabdoid, atypical teratoid or rhabdoid tumor, epithelioid sarcoma, renal medullary carcinoma, epithelioid MPNST, myoepithelial carcinoma, and extraskeletal myxoid chondrosarcoma. These are all studied in the other organ systems. And in GI tract, so this is one picture. It's a gastric biopsy. We can see some tumor cells marked in arrows. And these tumor cells are positive for CAM 5.2. And the same tumor cells, they are negative for INI1, which shows there is a loss of INI1 in these tumor cells. So there are INI1 negative tumors in the GI tract. So, but it's very rare. Morphologically, they've studied, they are highly anaplastic with rhabdoid features. But in other organs, these tumors generally have an aggressive behavior, but there is lack of data regarding their aggressive behavior in the GI tract. So more additional studies will be needed targeting the other proteins, like other SMART proteins, to know if it's aggressive or not. So this is still under research. Now the next use of IHC is to localize the neuroendocrine tumors of unknown origin. So we know in GI tract we have well-differentiated neuroendocrine tumor and poorly differentiated neuroendocrine carcinoma. So first, in metastatic well-differentiated neuroendocrine tumor, so it's very important to differentiate because clinically, well-differentiated tumor will behave as both indolent as well as aggressive, whereas poorly differentiated carcinoma will have an aggressive behavior. So in metastatic well-differentiated neuroendocrine tumor, the most common metastatic site is liver, and the most common primary site will be pancreas, followed by small intestine, colorectum, and then the lung. So we have specific markers. So for pancreatic well-differentiated neuroendocrine tumor, the markers are islet-1 and Pax8. So now this islet-1 has some limitations. It can also be positive in some extra pancreatic tumors like small cell neuroendocrine carcinoma, lung, and Merkel cell carcinoma. And Pax8, another marker for pancreatic well-differentiated neuroendocrine tumor, is also positive. It also shows 100% positivity in well-differentiated neuroendocrine tumor of duodenal, also in thymus and parathyroid. So in this article, the author recommends a three-marker panel, which is islet-1 for pancreas, CDX2 for ileum, and TTF1 for lung. So these are the markers recommended for
Hello, Vinita, no mic. Not able to hear.
Yeah, it stopped again. Wait a minute.
Sir, after that initial, when it went off, I'm not seeing the screen. I'm only seeing Benita.
No, you have to go to the screenshot, Lena. I mean, it's there. Can somebody call Benita again?
Yes, ma'am.
Archana, just call her again once more.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not sure because some departments said that there were some hitches, but I'm not sure whether it's because of the issues or whether it's because of net at Benita's place.
It's got cut again. We are not able to see you. Can you again?
Sunita,
She's come back, sir.
I don't know what.
என்ன
தெரியல
என்ன
சார்.
பண்ணீங்க புனிதா?
எதுவுமே நான் பண்ணல சார்.
சூப்பர் சூப்பர்.
சார் எதுல இருந்து? Yeah, okay sir, I'll start again, but from where sir?
Ingedama.
Okay.
This is what you are doing. Yeah.
Okay.
This is what you are doing. No problem.
Okay.
Go on, Benita. It's okay. These switches will be there.
Okay.
You can check the net
Okay.
again. Start off.
Okay.
Definitely.
So now the next role of IHC will be to local. Okay. I think everyone can mute your.
Yeah, please mute your. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So now the other role is to localize neuroendocrine tumor of unknown origin. So we have well-differentiated neuroendocrine tumor and poorly differentiated neuroendocrine carcinoma. So this is important because well-differentiated tumor can have indolent as well as aggressive course, whereas poorly differentiated carcinoma always has an aggressive course. So metastatic well-differentiated neuroendocrine tumor, the most common metastatic site is liver, and the most common primary will be from pancreas, followed by small intestine, then colorectum, and then the lung. So as we saw, pancreas is the most common primary metastatic site for well-differentiated neuroendocrine tumor, and the markers are islet-1 and PAX8. But this islet-1 has certain limitations. It is also positive in extrapancreatic tumors like small cell neuroendocrine carcinoma of the lung and Merkel cell carcinoma. And PAX8 is also positive in, likewise, PAX8, which is a marker for pancreatic neuroendocrine tumor, it's also positive in it shows 100% positivity in duodenal neuroendocrine tumors also, and also in thymus and parathyroid. So here the author recommends a panel, IHC panel for well-differentiated neuroendocrine tumor. So islet-1 for pancreas, CDX2 for ileum, and TTF1 for lung. So in case like if islet-1 is not available, we can go ahead with PAX8. So PAX8 positivity will strongly suggest that the possible primary is either pancreas or duodenum, because PAX8 is positive in both pancreatic as well as duodenal neuroendocrine tumor. Okay. So now we saw the IHC panel for well-differentiated tumor. Now coming to poorly differentiated neuroendocrine carcinoma, it's not very important to localize the primary site clinically because it does not change the treatment. Regardless of the primary site, a platinum-based chemotherapeutic agent is given. And another limitation in neuroendocrine carcinoma is, even if we do the IHC panel for TTF1 and CDX2, it does not correlate well with the lung and intestinal origin. So if at all in future, this becomes clinically significant to find the primary site for poorly differentiated carcinoma, then alternative markers have to be developed. So for now, it's important to localize the primary site of well-differentiated neuroendocrine tumor. So now coming to the last part, which is evaluation of IHC for anal neoplasms. We know the last project, which is lower anogenital squamous terminology project. So they standardized a two-tiered grading system for squamous intraepithelial lesions, and they divided these intraepithelial lesions into L-cell and H-cell. So L-cell represents the a transient HPV infection, whereas H-cell represents the integration of the viral DNA into the host genome. So we know these marker for this oncogenic viral-driven cellular proliferation will be P16. So the last project, they also recommend a pattern to say it is P16 positive. So when to call positive P16 is, it should be a diffuse strong positivity. It's called as block positive staining, and the staining pattern should be nuclear or nuclear with cytoplasmic staining. And this should extend from the basement membrane, and it should occupy at least 1/3 of the thickness of the epithelium. So it's not necessary to have a full thickness staining or even up to 2/3. So at least 1/3 thickness is enough to say it's P16 positive. So here in this picture, we can say it's a diffuse strong block-like positivity, and we can also see it's both nuclear as well as cytoplasmic staining. It extends from the basement membrane and is occupying almost up to 2/3 of the total epithelial thickness. So this is the pattern of P16 positivity to call it is positive. And the last project, they also recommend some criteria to do IHC for P16. So one is, if the differential diagnosis is between H-cell and non-neoplastic mimics like immature squamous metaplasia, atrophy, reparative epithelial changes, and tangential section, or if the morphologic findings are equivocal between L-cell and H-cell, or if there is a diagnostic disagreement between the pathologists and one of the differential is a H-cell, and or if morphology looks like L-cell, but the patient had a prior history of H-cell, or on cytology we've given a high-risk diagnosis like ASCH or ASCUS, then we can go ahead with P16. Now the last one, evaluation of IHC for basaloid anal neoplasms. We know the basaloid anal neoplasms can either be, the more common will be basaloid variant of squamous cell carcinoma, and the other one is basal cell carcinoma. So basaloid squamous cell carcinoma is more common in the anal canal and as well as in the perianal region, whereas basal cell carcinoma will be more in the perianal skin margin, and it is also associated with retraction artifact, and there will not be any atypical mitosis. All these features will favor basal cell carcinoma. So here again we have a panel of markers. One is BER-F4, BCL2, and P16. So BER-F4 and BCL2 are positive for basal cell carcinoma, whereas P16 is positive for squamous cell carcinoma. So this is a picture where we can see a biopsy showing tumor cells in nest, and they have peripheral palisading, and the cells are like nests of blue cells with hyperchromatic nuclei, and there is peripheral palisading also. So this is a basaloid neoplasm in the anal canal, and this is positive for BER-F4. We can also see some retraction artifact on morphology. So morphology-wise is also, it's more in favor of basal cell carcinoma, and it's positive for BER-F4, which confirms this is a basal cell carcinoma of the anal skin. And this is another biopsy where again we can see nests of tumor cells with some peripheral palisading. There is not much retraction artifact. So this was positive for P16. That means this confirms this is a basaloid variant of squamous cell carcinoma. So to conclude, IHC in GI tract, majority it is used in the workup of poorly differentiated malignant neoplasms. And we should also be aware there are some uncommon neoplasms in the GI tract. So that should be considered in the differential. And then IHC also has a role in evaluating non-neoplastic conditions, as we saw in H. pylori gastritis and atrophic gastritis. But there should be a reasonable working differential diagnosis before we order any IHC.
Super.
Very nice. Very nice. Benita. Extensive. Super. Super.
Change layout.
I am Tanga here. I want to ask one question. See, any other conditions, immunohistochemistry is done in GI tract. It's not covered in this article, but any other conditions, is it coming across your mind? Or any other PGs would like to answer? No. Am I audible?
Yeah, yeah, you're
Okay, I will
audible,
add.
audible. Yeah, yeah. There is a one
I'll give a
big group
clue
of.
first. It is in child. It is in a child. Anybody would like to give an answer? Okay,
This is not
I
included.
will give the answer. The rectal biopsies or the aganglionic segments come. Usually, HND is the gold standard for diagnosis. First thing you do acetylcholinesterase. It's not an immunohistochemistry, it's a histochemistry. But now they are using calretinine as immunohistochemistry. So absence of calretinine in aganglionic segment, nowadays they have come to almost certain that it's a diagnostic of Hirschsprung's disease. Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. Anybody
Yaar
else? Yes.
moderator, yaar questions thinking, ma.
Sir, I have the, sir, can I go ahead with the questions, ma'am?
Yeah,
Yaar moderator.
Yeah.
Tanga ma'am.
yeah. So, yeah,
நீங்க
Tanga.
pick up பண்ணுங்க madam. யார் பதில் சொல்லணும்னு எல்லாரும்
Okay.
mic
The question first is Harsha.
Yeah. What is the role of IHC in autoimmune atrophic gastritis and what are the IHC markers used?
So the first use will be
Harsha.
to confirm whether the site of the biopsy, whether it is from the body or the antrum, with the help of gastrin, and the second will be to identify the enterochromaffin cell hyperplasia with the use of chromogranin and synaptophysin.
Yeah.
Good.
Second question to Mary Anelia.
என்ன மேடம் செகண்ட் क्वेश्चन என்ன மேடம்
Anelia.
What are the uses of SAT-B2 marker?
SAT-B2 can be used to differentiate colonic and appendiceal metastasis versus ovarian primary metastasis. We can also use it to localize primary site of Fruchtenberg of ovary. And for poorly differentiated adenocarcinomas, we can use it. Mainly for colorectal and appendiceal metastasis, it is used for.
Super Anelia. Ovary Fruchtenberg is very, very helpful. When SAT-B2 is positive, it is metastasis. No question about it.
Yes, sir.
Third question to Shanmugapriya. Are you available? Vinita?
I don't know, ma'am.
I can't see her here.
I
don't think she's there.
Yeah.
Or Gayatri? Gayatri, are you available?
Yeah,
Yeah. Vinita to Gayatri.
Yeah.
Third question.
The most common primary site of well-differentiated neuroendocrine tumor and what is the recommended IHC panel to localize primary in well-differentiated neuroendocrine tumor?
Ma'am, the most common primary site is the pancreas. And to differentiate, there is a set of IHC panel. For pancreas, it is ILET1 and PAX8, and CDH2 for ileum, and TTF1 to differentiate it from the lung well-differentiated neuroendocrine tumors.
Yeah.
Very good.
Question to Shanmugapriya. She is available.
Shanmugapriya இருக்காங்க மேடம். அதனால அவங்க ஆன்சர் பண்ணுவாங்க. அவங்க கேளுங்க.
When do we say it's a positive P16 staining pattern?
Shanmugapriya?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
When it is
Tell.
both nuclear and cytoplasmic positivity should be there, and it should extend from the base and at least cover 1/3 of the thickness of the epithelium.
It should be nuclear and cytoplasmic.
Nuclear and cytoplasmic block-like positivity.
That block is very important. Block like
diffuse block.
Very important.
What is next question? Yeah, ma'am. Last question. So, what is this?
Is he there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, he's there. Yeah. So identify this anal neoplasm and what's the recommended IHC panel for basaloid tumors of anal neoplasms.
Project the picture. Picture is not coming.
Yeah. Paul, you can see, right?
No, I cannot see the picture.
ஏய் ஓ பிக்சர் தெரியலன்றாங்கடா மேடம் ஓ
இல்ல,
வீடியோ
இல்ல
ஆன்
sir.
பண்ணு
இந்த கொஸ்டின்ல வந்து பிக்சர் இருக்காதா சார்?
Question picture தெரியலையா?
Yeah, தெரியல.
Are you
Okay.
project the last PowerPoint that slide? That's not
now
last that
போடு
slide.
You have to go to the screen.
Can you see now, Paul?
No, I cannot see.
Tell the IHC panel for basaloid neoplasm of
Yeah.
anal canal.
Yeah.
So for basaloid neoplasm, we have it could be either BCC or basaloid variant of SCC. So we have BER EP4 and BCL2 for BCC and P16 for squamous cell carcinoma.
Correct. Super. Very good. Yeah. Any more questions, Ayrtama Benita?
Ma'am?
Over? All
Yeah, ma'am.
questions
Only
over?
yeah, over, ma'am. 5 questions.
Okay, so let us show hands because clapping is difficult. Yeah, if you can clap, fine. Otherwise, very good. Good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Clap. Excellent presentation. Okay, so I think all programs will be like this. So tomorrow, whoever is doing the PG program can get ready for presentation through Google Meet. And we need please to